They will discuss about the one of the important GI condition called as Barrett esophagus, and we'll discuss the importance of Barrett's esophagus, its diagnosis, screening, surveillance, and the management and endoscopic therapy of the Barrett-related neoplasia. So, Barrett's esophagus is an acquired condition. And it is in response to gastroesophageal reflux leading to the columnar lined epithelium in the distal esophagus. Intestinal metaplasia is characterized by the goblet cells, which are biologically unstable with greatest risk of neoplastic progression, making it a major risk factor for development of esophageal adenocarcinoma. Incidence of this is rising rapidly in Western countries. So, by definition, it is the change in the distal esophageal epithelium of any length that can be recognized as a columnar and have interstitial metaplasia by biopsy of the esophagus. Clearly visible endoscopically above the gastroesophageal junction, more than 1 centimeter, and is confirmed histopathologically with the distal esophageal biopsies of the columnar lined epithelium only. Endoscopically, it must be distinguished from the irregular Z line, where the squamo-columnar junction appears with the tongues of the columnar epithelium less than 1 centimeter with no confluent columnar line segments. Biopsies are generally not recommended for irregular Z line. If done, then labeled as gastroesophageal junction, not esophageal biopsy. Must accurately delineate the gastroesophageal junction by detecting the proximal end of the longitudinal gastric folds with a minimum insufflation. The columnar epithelium should be visible endoscopically minimum of 1 centimeter above the gastroesophageal junction to diagnose Barrett's esophagus. Endoscopic reporting should be done using the Prax criteria, which assesses the circumference and the minimal extent of the endoscopically visualized Barrett segment, diaphragmatic pinch of the proximal end of the gastric fold, and the presence and location of visible lesions should be recorded according to the Paris classification. Minimum number of 8 biopsies provides adequate assessment for the intestinal metaplasia. Starting distally 1 to 2 centimeters above the gastroesophageal junction, 4-quadrant random biopsies should be done every 2 centimeters while advancing proximally. And targeted biopsies of the visible lesion should be done before the random biopsies. Ideally, erosive esophagitis should be healed prior to the biopsies for the Barrett's esophagus to avoid missing of short segment of the columnar epithelium. To improve the standards of care and ease of communication between the experts, the use of minimum data set is recommended to record the histopathological findings. Screening in unselected population of the patients with gastroesophageal reflux symptoms is not recommended. Screening should be considered in patients with chronic gastroesophageal reflux disease for more than 30 years and multiple risk factors including at least 3 of the following: age over 50, white race, male, sex, obesity. Threshold for multiple risk factors should be lowered in those with first degree relatives with Barrett's or the esophageal adenocarcinoma. Aim of the surveillance is to detect the cancer or the precancers at the stage where the intervention may be curative. Surveillance correlates with the earlier staging and improved survival from the cancer. Endoscopic monitoring with histopathological assessment of the dysplasia is only current method of surveillance. Patients should have access to outpatient clinic to discuss the diagnosis of Barrett's esophagus and discussion of pros and cons of surveillance. High resolution endoscopy should be used for surveillance. So dysplasia should be reported as low and high grade. Any grade of dysplasia should be confirmed by the expert of 2 independent pathologists, and a revised Vienna classification should be used. Biopsy protocol for known dysplasia, it should be obtained every 1 centimeters in patient with known dysplasia. Primary outcome of occurrence of high-grade dysplasia or adenocarcinoma anytime during 3 years following the randomization. Secondary outcome is histological eradication of dysplasia and intestinal metaplasia and adverse events. The endoscopic ablative therapy is a superior management strategy for endoscopic surveillance in patients with Barrett's esophagus and confirmed with low-grade dysplasia. Ablation treatment was generally safe, and the esophageal stricture being the most common complication, requiring a median of 1 dilation. Patient with low-grade dysplasia should have a repeat endoscopy in 6 months, and if it is found to have any of the follow-up esophagogastric duodenoscopies and confirmed by the expert GI pathologist, and the patient should be offered endoscopic ablation therapy. In the high-grade dysplasia, if the possibility of high-grade dysplasia has been raised, it is critical that high-quality baseline endoscopy is done to map out any visible lesions and extent of biopsy. Endoscopic assessment will usually identify the areas of the most advanced neoplasia. ERM should aim to resect all visible abnormalities. High-grade dysplasia and Barrett's-related adenocarcinoma confirmed mucosa endoscopic therapy is preferred over esophagectomy in endoscopic surveillance. Endoscopic therapy of Barrett's esophagus neoplasia has been developed on the evidence that the high-grade dysplasia and T1A is associated with a low rate of lymph node metastasis, and endoscopic and surgical series indicates 0 to 10% risk of the cancers. ER should be considered as the therapy of choice for dysplasia associated with visible lesions as T1A adenocarcinoma. Recommendation stage B, grade B. For the patient with high surgical risk, the endoscopic therapy can be offered as an alternative to the surgery for the treatment of the good prognosis of T1B adenocarcinoma, as well as differentiated without lymphovascular invasion. For T1B adenocarcinomas with involvement of the second submucosal layer or beyond, endoscopic therapy should not be considered as curative. The presence of high-grade dysplasia or intramucosal cancer without the visible lesions, flat HGD intramucosal cancer, and these should be managed with an endoscopic ablative technique. RFA currently has a better safety and side effect profile which is comparable to efficacy. Eradication of the residual Barrett's esophagus after the focal ER reduces the risk of metachronous neoplasia and is recommended. In patients who are treated for high-grade dysplasia, endoscopic follow-up is recommended every 3 months for 1 year and yearly thereafter, and this should include the biopsies of GOJ with gastroesophageal junction with the previous extent of Barrett's epithelium. I hope you liked it, and if there are any questions, then please write in the comments and we'd like to address in the future. Thank you very much.